So this is going to be my very first video of our new cooking show that we're going to call What You Got Cooking. And this is my new kitchen that my wonderful husband has built for me. And believe it or not, this area right here used to be a storage room. So didn't he do a great job? Thank you, babe. And so my very first thing that I'm going to cook for you is going to be my grandma's chocolate cake. Because my grandma is the reason that I love to cook. She loved to cook, and so I'm just going to do her chocolate cake recipe. Ironically, this is only the second time that I have made this cake because she always made it for us. So I didn't know how to make it. I just got a recipe, and so here we go. You ready? So I do have to go off of my paper here that I wrote it down on because this is only the second time I've made it. But I do have it right here on this neat little cutting board. This is my grandma's handwriting. A friend of mine, Corey, got this for me as a gift, and so this is how she wrote it out, and this is a really neat gift idea for anybody who doesn't know what to get somebody, so I love it and I cherish that. So anyway, here we go. So we have 1.5 cups of flour, and then we also have 1.5 cups of sugar, and 1/2 cup of cocoa, and we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then it calls for a teaspoon of salt, but I use kosher salt, so I just put like a tiny pinch in there. So there's that. And then 1/2 cup of oil, 2 eggs, 3/4 cup of milk, and let's see, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And just mix it up really good. Whisk it really good. I just remember my grandma had this every Sunday after church for us, and all of my family will remember this. This is a highlight of her desserts that she always had. My grandma always made Sunday dinner after church. We all went to her house, cousins, aunts, uncles, every Sunday. And not only did we go, she usually invited a family from church. Also, she invited the preacher sometimes so that we didn't have him for Sunday dinner. He was there, so we couldn't have him for lunch. Anyway, it was good memories. I remember we all took turns. My grandma lived a few miles out of town, out in the country, so all of us cousins would take turns who was going to drive home, who got to drive home. And I mean, we were like 11 and 12 years old, so we always got to do that. So I've already made one cake so that I could show you what it looks like, but I'm going to put this one in a to-go pan. So I always like to try to make an extra cake so that I can give it away to somebody. So there's an idea for you. So you're going to set your oven to 325 degrees, and this is what it's going to look like. And then, of course, you're going to, don't know why we do this, but she always said you had to do this, pound it out, get all the bubbles out, make sure it's even, and then pop it in the oven, and this is going to bake. Now, her recipe calls for 20 minutes, but it does not take 20 minutes. It takes about 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm sure she made this recipe up, and then she just watched the cake. So about 20 minutes. Let me set my trusty timer because it did take about 30 minutes actually. So I'll just check it in a little bit. So now we're going to make the icing, which on her recipe it says it's creamy chocolate icing, but it is not creamy. It's kind of hard. After it sets up, it's crunchy on top, kind of like magic shell. So you're going to do about 3 tablespoons of butter, and then we're going to do 1/2 cup of cocoa.
Now that's real butter.
Yes, real butter, absolutely. And then this is going to be, I can't remember on the vanilla. Let's see, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, and put it all in there. And her recipe calls for milk, but I'm going to use whipping cream because it made it just a little bit creamier. Now I do use kosher salt, so it does say a dash of salt, so I just kind of crumble it up with my fingers a little bit. Now I'm going to get some whipping cream, and it is, let me see here. I can't remember. Oh, a third cup of milk that I'm going to use whipping cream. So I'm going to mix all of this together in your pan. This is another thing that I remember, is getting to do the icing for the cake. So it's going to get really smooth here once that butter melts. So get it good and bubbly. After all of this gets melted down and it starts to bubble a little bit and you get all of your chocolate mixed in, all your cocoa mixed in, then you're going to add 3 cups of powdered sugar. One of my favorite things. I know for sure this was my dad's favorite recipe. He loved my grandma's chocolate cake. And just a good memory to have. Remember standing by her stove and stirring it just like that. And gravy. She would let us mix the gravy. She usually had everything ready when we got back from church. The oven was on low and everything was in the oven ready to go, and we would all start setting the table. So it's a shame we don't do that anymore. All right, and now I'm going to do 3 cups of powdered sugar. This is kind of hard to incorporate, I've noticed, and I always wondered. My grandma's cakes had little specks of powdered sugar in it, and then my cake that I made this morning, I got up this morning and made one so that I would have one to show you. Same thing. I mean, it could be whisked a little better, I guess, but there was still little dots of powdered sugar when I poured it on, so I noticed that. Just like my grandma's, though. Just homemade, not beautiful, just ugly. Sometimes ugly stuff is the best. So we just cook it until it just kind of bubbles up, and then once you pour it on your cake, you're going to it's going to harden up. But on your cake, you're going to poke holes in it. Just take like a butter knife, take the big end of the butter knife, poke holes all in your cake, and then you'll drizzle this on top. And then it'll set up kind of hard, have kind of a little bit of a crispy shell on it. Not too crispy, but it's not creamy for sure. I don't know why she wrote creamy on there, but maybe that was just the word she wanted to use. Actually, Grandma didn't even, she only went to the 6th grade, so maybe that's the word she thought was best to describe it. She lost her mom when she was just 10 years old, so she had to take care of her younger brother and sister, and then just be their mom. I remember she told me that she made her baby sister Arnitas a dress out of a flour sack to wear to her mother's funeral. So grew up fast. So anyway, I just let it boil a little bit. That's what I remember how she did it. It's when it started bubbling, and then she just shut it off and then drizzle it over her cake. So here we are. Here's the cake. This is what it looks like. So I'm going to cut a piece, and I think her cake probably wasn't this thick. I think she had a bigger pan that she put it in, like a little bit bigger than this, and yeah, it's good. And then she would take a can of peaches, and this, my family will remember, my cousins will probably recognize this bowl. This is my grandma's bowl and my grandma's spoon. And so she would set a bowl of peaches and a chocolate cake, get you a piece of chocolate cake, and then just get your peaches, and this is how we ate it. Peaches right on top, get a little bit of juice. This is how we loved it. My dad would always say, get me some extra juice on my piece. Soak it up. So, there it is. My grandma Ada's famous chocolate cake. Of course, I have to try it. You think you would like peaches on your cake?
That looks good.
Maybe not, but that's how we ate it. Pretty good. Probably not as good as my grandma's because, you know, that was her specialty, but it's pretty good. So anyway, so that's my very first cooking video, and I don't know why, but I'm a little bit nervous about this, and This is my first recipe that I'm going to do to honor my grandmother. And then this week my sister's here visiting. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to do salmon patties and a couple of other things, and we'll start making videos and share them with you, and we'll see you.